live in Charlotte, North Carolina, in the old Hoskins area, Hoskins/Thomasboro area. Earlier today, my girlfriend Jade Guyton was assaulted while she was walking to the peaceful protest that was going to happen today in First Ward Park. A older white man with blue eyes and a possible Carhartt jacket, tannish, brownish colored, and bluish black pants, walked up to her. Also he had like a scruffy like mustache and beard. He did look like he could have been homeless. He saw her walking, and she had her sign in her hand. Just again, she's going to a protest. And he asked, "What does your sign say?" And it said "Chinga la migra." And he's like, "What does that mean?" And she told him, "Fuck ICE. That's what it means." So he was like, "Well, I'm a retired veteran, so I disagree." And then she just said, "Okay, fuck ICE." And so he, became argumentative and said, it was like, I disagree, and just kept becoming more argumentative. And was getting closer to her as he was becoming argumentative. And he did assault her, and spit on her. Hit her, got her on the ground, hit her again. Also spit on her when she was trying to pick up her sign. And then proceeds to try and walk away. And she's on the phone with the dispatcher at the time, telling the dispatcher that, she's fearful of what else he could do, and that she was getting assaulted, and he kept threatening that he was going to kill her. Also screaming expletives at her, saying words like, and I don't like to use this word, faggot and faggot lover. He's like, I'm going to kill you, things of that nature. Then proceeds to try to walk away. And my girlfriend's on the phone with the dispatcher saying, this is what he's wearing, this is what he looks like, this is the street that he's walking down at a safe enough distance. And then he's yelling, like, don't follow me. If she doesn't follow him, he's going to get away. Yes, I know, like, the police at the end of the day are like, oh, we don't know what he could have done after that, or if he was wearing some sort of weapon or anything of that sort. But in any case, for instance, if you're driving and someone hits you, and they proceed to try and drive away, are you not going to go after them? Especially, if anything, to try and get a license plate and an accurate description of the car. So, in essence, that's what she was doing. So, trying to make it so this man, she could commit him to memory, and so that he could be caught. Again, she is still on the phone with the dispatcher at this time, and the dispatcher is telling her to disengage. And eventually, my girlfriend does. And so she waits at the top of Rozelle's Ferry, which is where the cops are supposed to be. She is on the phone for 45 minutes. She's also, I guess eventually they end the call, and then she calls me because I'm on my way home from work. And so she told me this while I was at work, so I kind of just try to get back in the car, get home as quick as possible. So she is waiting for the cops, tries to wave them over because there's several cops that kind of come through our neighborhood. So she tries to wave one over, and that cop's like, oh, well, I didn't know, I was actually just going to another emergency, and I just saw you waving, so that's why I stopped. So he stops, and then I guess the original officer that was dispatched stopped, as well. They're gathering her statement, all these other things, because I'm on the phone as this conversation is happening. And they're just like, giving that example of, like I said, you're not supposed to go after a person because you do not know what they're actively going to do, quote unquote. But again, same rhetoric as if you're hit and someone drives off. Again, she was still following at a safe enough distance and he was still yelling expletives at her. But she wasn't like on him or anything. She was just making sure she had an accurate description and knew at least what direction he was going to continue to go in. So she goes back up, like I said, talking to the officers, and it really is not giving like that. They really care, truly and honestly. And at this point, I am on the way to come get her from the location I come to get her. I actually end up spotting this man on my drive from the location that she said she was. And she said, "Oh, that's him to a T." And so I come to get her so she can, verify that is the man. So, after I come get her, we come back around, they say someone new, and it was not him. But the man that I saw when I drove by the first time was who assaulted her. But there was another man who was dressed in a similar outfit, who she actually was able to talk to and says, "Do you know this person or have you seen this person?" And he's like, "No, I don't know who that is. I've never seen him or anything of the like." So we were just able to have a good conversation with the guy who looked similar. So we come back to the house, and she wants to at least try and look in some of the areas because if she can find where he's at, again, we can get on the phone and be like, "This is exactly where he's at or where he stays." Because again, we're under the impression that he's a homeless man, and there's a lot of places to kind of go and hide. Like I said, in the Hoskins-Thomasboro area. So, it's just the incongruencies of if the police are truly and honestly supposed to be there to protect and serve us, why aren't they doing so? Because truly and honestly, by the time we came back, it's winter, so it's getting dark earlier. This happened, I will say, I think she called me about 3:30 when I was at work. So this all happened about 3:30. It is currently 6:54. So, now all of a sudden there's these cops in the area. You're not going to be able to see anybody. Like I said, again, I live in the Hoskins-Thomasboro area. There's a park that just basically goes into wooded areas and then straight to the highway, and lots of little nooks and crannies of neighborhoods and other things because we are directly off the highway. So it's really just the incongruencies in what are cops really for if they're not really protecting anybody? Like, people call you, and if someone's getting physically assaulted in hate crime because she is queer, she's a trans woman, and getting called a faggot and faggot lover, that's literally the words that were used. It's not helping the situation around, the U.S. and everything when it comes to people now being like, "We're gonna lump you in with ICE because you're not doing anything for us." And truly and honestly, this is not the first time because we've also lived in apartments off Freedom. And with that, there was a murder that happened outside of our apartment. And no one was ever caught. And just like my car got broken into when we lived there as well. No one got caught, even though there's cameras. There was people who ran drugs. Um, and she even physically had to like tell an officer that this is where drugs are ran. And the officer was like, oh, well, they really don't do too much about drugs around here. But if you're really concerned, you can go and call narco. Aren't you a cop? Like, what's the whole point of the camera? Now you have this information. Now go figure it out. Watch him stake out whatever. The same person had children with guns, which was also told to these cops. On the other side of the apartments, which is in the same complex, but is just divided by like trees, owned by the same people, someone got murdered in their apartment. Still don't know who did the murder. Not even, maybe about a month ago, there was a shooting outside of where we live currently, again, Hoskins, Thomasboro area, at the park. Of course, no one knows who shot what, where, or whomever. But you know it happened because there's 2 bullet holes in my neighbor's house. So again, what is the true and honest point of the cops? And you're basically proving the point of this neighborhood that we are forgotten and you really don't care about us. Please just do better. And people would be more on your side if you were really in it for us. That's it, that's all.